Hello and welcome to Views on News. I am Jawad Tehami. Today marks a monumental moment in the history of Islamic Republic of Pakistan. 10th of April, 50 years ago, a 1973 constitution was passed by the National Assembly. This particular document was framed by the House, which was directly elected by the people of Pakistan. A living document that represents the will and the aspiration of the people of Pakistan, also contains the vision of the founding fathers and embodies the principles of democracy, rule of law, freedom, and equality and justice. As the nation celebrates the golden jubilee of the adoption of 1973 constitution, a convention was held at the Parliament House in Islamabad, which has pledged to preserve, protect and defend the constitution, also urging all the state organs to implement this constitution in letter and spirit for the rights and the interests of the people of Pakistan. At the same time, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif presented a resolution emphasizing the importance of upholding the principle of federalism, which is one of the fundamental tenets of the Constitution. And in his address to the convention, the Prime Minister said, let me quote, that the 1973 Constitution has bound the entire Pakistani nation together since its inception, unquote. And the Prime Minister in his tweet also said, let me quote, this sacred document that has weathered many storms over the past 50 years and held the Federation together, unquote. The Prime Minister at the same time has also paid tribute to the framers of this Constitution for their political foresight. At the same time, we have seen Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari also in his message regarding the day said, let me quote, after August 14, 1947, the second most important day in our national history was April the 10th, 1973, unquote. Now, this particular convention, which was held at the Parliament House in Islamabad today, also declared 10th of April as the National Constitution Day, which will be celebrated each year. At the same time, we saw Speaker National Assembly Raja Parvez Ashraf, along with Information Minister Maryam Aurangzeb, as well as Senator Raza Rabbani and other lawmakers, also laid the foundation stone, the constitutional memorial at the D Chowk. We'll be heading into the discussion. We'll be joined by an esteemed panel of guests today to talk about the significance of 10th of April 1973. But before that, our production team has prepared a report. Let's watch that.
Pakistan is celebrating the 50th anniversary of 1973's constitution today on 10th of April 2023. The 1973's constitution is a landmark document and is the third constitution which was formed since the inception of Pakistan. This constitution has survived multiple crises over the years, but is still the longest surviving constitution of the country. This constitution was formed after a long term of constitutional instability, and its formation was sincere effort of Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto, who after assuming the charge of Pakistan in December 1971 took the responsibility to take Pakistan out of prolonged constitutional crisis. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif addressed the special session of National Assembly to commemorate Golden Jubilee of 1973 Constitution. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif paid a tribute to the formers of this constitution who set aside their political differences and got united for sake of the country.
1973 के आइन में मुख्तलिफ औकात में जो तरमीम की गई, ख़ास तौर पर डिक्टेटरशिप के ज़माने में, उसके बावजूद भी ये आइन आज भी जिंदा सलामत है। मुअज़्ज़ज़ सियासी ज़ोमा जो अपने नज़रिए के और सियासी इख्तिलाफ़ात के हवाले से शायद ना मिल बैठते, लेकिन पाकिस्तान के अंदर आइन की हुक्मरानी और अदल और इंसाफ के बोलबाले के लिए उन्होंने अपने तमाम तर इख्तिलाफात एक तरफ कर दिए.
Prime Minister also presented the resolution emphasizing the importance of upholding the principles of federalism, declaring them as one of the fundamental tenets of the Constitution. In this resolution, Prime Minister declares April the 10th, 2023 as the National Constitution Day, to be celebrated each year to commemorate the adoption of the Constitution of 1973 and to educate the people of Pakistan about the Constitution and its significance for the country. The resolution was unanimously adopted by the convention. Earlier in his tweet, Prime Minister wrote that the Constitution is a sacred document that has weathered many storms over the past 50 years and held the Federation together. He added that Constitution of Pakistan continues to be central to shaping our national character, identity and future trajectory. Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari also addressed the ceremony and said that nation is indebted to those who defied dictators.
पाकिस्तान इकट्ठा है तो जो जंजीर ये चारे सूबों को मिला के पाकिस्तान की शक्ल में एक मुल्क एक कौम पूरी दुनिया को नज़र आ रहा है तो पाकिस्तान का आईन वो जंजीर है जो सारे सूबों को जोड़ पाकिस्तान बनाता है.
He emphasized that the upcoming generation must be educated about the constitution.
You just watched that report, the significance of 10th of April 1973, when the 1973 Constitution was passed by the National Assembly. Let me bring in our panelists. We are honored to have been joined in the studio by Dr. Abid Abbasi. He is political analyst. Dr. Abbasi, thank you very much for joining in at Views on News tonight. We really appreciate your time. At the same time, we are being joined on Skype by Barrister Hamayun Sarfraz Chattha. He's legal expert. Barrister Chattha, thank you very much for your time also, for being with us on Views on News tonight. We really appreciate that. Let me begin the discussion with you, Dr. Abbasi. Now, the 1973 Constitution, what makes this Constitution an all-encompassing document that covers the entire spectrum of the national life?
Thank you very much, Nami sir. First of all, we should understand what is the importance of constitution for a country, particularly the country like Pakistan, which having a multi-ethnic or sort of nationalities in Pakistan. We are having 4 federating units, having their own distinct culture, their own distinct languages, own distinct history and all that. So, keeping in view the importance of constitution across the globe, the constitution is the document which is actually they set the rules of the game for a people to live in a particular country. That is actually the true definition of it. It is a sacred document. It is an sort of agreement between state and the people of that state. So unfortunately, after the creation of Pakistan, we could not make a constitution consensus document till 1973. Unfortunately, after the dismemberment of half of the country, and the essence of the disagreement of the eastern people was based on the provincial autonomy and the rights given in the Constitution of 1973. Those sort of the demands of eastern Pakistan were there. This is a sad story, but Constitution is a sacred document, but we have seen, after passing 50 years, we have seen 2 rigorous martial laws in the country. Martial law means no law. Martial law means no law. The Constitution was toppled by 2 dictators, but they could not, totally abrogate the Constitution. They kept Constitution in abeyance.
Dr. Abbasi, I'll come to this point later in the show. What was the requirement to get this document done at that very particular time? As you have already mentioned, there was a huge gap when the country got its first constitution, and this happens to be the most effective and the most comprehensive constitution. How it becomes different from the previous 2 constitutions back in 1956 and 62?
The 1956 Constitution was made by the representative of the people, but they were not representative on the basis of adult franchise based election, because Pakistan could not hold the elections on the adult franchise basis after the creation of Pakistan from 1947 till 1970. That constitution, whatever those the system of electoral franchise was there, but that constitution was made by the representative of the people, though they were elected not directly but indirectly. But that constitution unfortunately could not be imposed in the country, could not be brought into the fashion, because that was abrogated by a martial law dictator, first by Iskandar Mirza, and after 20 days Ayub Khan took our country as the chief martial law administrator. That constitution could not work in the country. Then Ayub Khan enacted a constitution, but he had not adopted the proper method, the proper universal method of constitution making. Then 1962 constitution was not actually the constitution made by the representative of the people of Pakistan. The 1973 constitution has its very unique importance, that people elected on adult franchise base for the first time in Pakistan, and they were elected on on the tickets of various political parties, having diverse kind of manifestos, diverse kind of their leanings. They all together unanimously sat together and frame rules of business for the people of this country to live, and that's, thanks God, that constitution is still in fashion. There are so many loopholes in that constitution, we can criticize that, but this is the document which kept the nation united, kept the federating units of Pakistan united, and Pakistan, by the grace of Almighty Allah, is still intact after having so many conspiracies from within and from outside the country.
Indeed. Let me bring another participant. He's joining us on the phone line, Mr. Shahzada Zulfiqar. He's senior journalist. Mr. Zulfiqar, thank you very much for joining in at Views on News tonight. We really appreciate that. As today marks the golden jubilee of the passing of the 1973 Constitution, what makes it a comprehensive and the most effective document that had ever been adopted in the history of the country with consensus and unanimously?
Thank you very much. I think first of all, I must praise the present government for celebrating after 5 decades and after 50 years of. This is a history making. Then when we got the first with full consensus document, and under that document, many governments were formed. Although we had experienced martial law of Zia, which actually played havoc with that document, and by bringing a lot of amendments. Then there was another martial law of Musharraf. So, but after that, I think in 2010. We got another document of 18 amendment. Although there was, that all 3 provinces were not agree on that document because that was the initial stage. Despite that, many NAP, National Awami Party people, they would not agree. But despite that, they said that this is an initial stage. We must agree on that. Out of 7 members, that 3 members didn't put their signatures on that from Balochistan. But 4 members agreed, and they said this is the initial state. With the passage of time, we will improve that. So with the passage of time, again the martial law, and again the governments, weak governments after that, ultimately we got through the 18 amendment, at least we can agree, and we said that under that amendment, the same constitution, the smaller provinces got a right of 50% shares on natural resources. So I think this is a good step by Pakistan People's Party, and also credit goes to Pakistan Muslim League Noon, the stronger position at that time. So I said, I think this is a good step by the present government, by the PDM, that they are celebrating 50 years of, and we should pledge that we should not only by celebrating 50 years, but we follow each and every article by letter and spirit.
Right, yes. Ms. Zulfiqar, please stay with us. So we are joined by another participant on Skype, Barrister Hamayun Sarfraz. Chattha is legal expert. Barrister Chattha, thank you very much for joining in at Views on News tonight. Now, when we talk about the passing of this particular constitution back on 10th of April in 1973, must have been quite a laborious work at that time, quite laced with challenges. Could you shed a little bit of light on the challenges that were faced by the legislators at that time?
Well, there were multiple challenges that were faced by the parliament of that time. First one was to make agree all the relevant parties which were representing people from different provinces to a particular kind of constitution, because if we look into the history of constitutions, we'll find multiple type of constitutions which are adopted by different nations in different times. And because we were very close to the United Kingdom, we wanted to adopt a constitution which was more close to the system or the legal system of United Kingdom. So I think it was the laborious or the hard work of Mr. Bhutto that he was successful in arranging this constitution by making agreeing all the leaders of from different parts of the Pakistan. First such problem was whether the constitution would be theocratic or secular. As you know, constitutions basically, the word constitution is basically was derived from the nations who became secular with the passage of time. So this was a very huge challenge because the Islamists in Pakistan wanted it to be basically a constitution which should be according to the Islam. So I think that was a very huge achievement. And at the same time, as my another friend was saying, that provincialism was another aspect that needed to be covered. Dissolution of power needed to be added in that, so that all the different people of Pakistan could be represented in spirit and form. So I think in that respect, it was a very huge achievement with all the problems we faced in these 50 years. But still, we have the Constitution of 1973 there. I think this is a very huge achievement of the people of Pakistan or the Parliament of Pakistan or the relevant institutions. So I think that respect, I would say we are going in a right direction, though we need a lot of hard work or masses need to understand the importance of constitutions because in third world countries ruling classes have found to disrespect the constitution. That is a very huge problem, and it is being raised or discussed in the whole world. So I think that time will come when the ordinary people of Pakistan understand the importance of law, the constitution. Then the constitution will take primacy, and we'll see the rule of law in our country.
Right, Barrister Chattha, your point is well taken. Please stay with us. Dr. Abbasi, when we talk about challenges, what key factors do you think that helped the legislators to pass this particular constitution with consensus? Where do you keep dialogue and that factor of statesmanship at that very point in history?
Yes, there were so many towering personalities in the parliament at that time. Rather that parliament was just National Assembly, rather that was a legislative assembly actually. Under the LFO of General Yahya Khan, the elections took place in both the parts of the country, east and west. But unfortunately, the eastern Pakistan was dismembered, that couldn't stay with us. After the dismemberment of East Pakistan, this was a very fragile situation. That was a very tough situation. Everybody knew that the responsible political leaders of that time. They knew the fragility of the situation, the importance of the constitution and keeping the other federating units intact at that time. But I think the credit, the more credit, the major chunk of the credit must be given to the statesmanship of Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto. He was actually at that time the president of the country and the head of the ruling party, Pakistan People's Party, and he managed to bring all the political leaders having diverse kind of political leanings, diverse kind of political manifestos, their orientations, and he succeeded. On 17th of April 1972, he held a convention for framing a constitution. He invited all the leaders of the political parties on one table and started the negotiation with them. There were Islamist right-wing political parties, there was extreme leftist political parties like Wali Khan, NAP. There were so many other centrist, rightist, left of the center, right of the center political parties, and all those political parties and their leaders have shown tremendous maturity to draft a constitution, a document for the people of Pakistan. The rules of games were set, how the people of Pakistan will live in a state and what would be the responsibilities of the state, how state would function. We have adopted a Westminster democratic system, parliamentary form of government in that constitution. For the first time, Senate of Pakistan was inducted in the constitution, upper house of the parliament, to give more powers to the smaller provinces, to make a safety wall in the way of exploitation against the smaller provinces from the bigger province, that is Punjab, because it was, a criticism from the eastern wing of the country that the Punjab is actually leading and ruling the country and not giving, spaces to the smaller provinces. For that very purpose, a Senate was, enacted, was made, where every province, the upper house of the parliament, every province having the similar, equal representation, that assures a safety wall, a hindrance in way of exploitation of the smaller provinces. But I would say the Mufti Mahmood, the head of JUI, Khan Abdul Wali Khan, he was the head of the National Awami Party, NAP at that time. He was a leftist political party. Sardar Ataullah Mangal, Khair Bakhsh Mari, and you name it, there were so many big names who were in that parliament, and they played their role, input, and most specifically, as you earlier said, the Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto as his party, the Mahmood Ali Kasuri. He should have been given, he should have been remembered today, because he has done a tremendous work to frame the constitution. There were so many other constitutional, Abdul Hafiz Pirzada should have been given. There were so many demands from the Islamist right-wing political parties that Islam should be given the status of the state religion. That was countered by Pakistan People's Party to say that there are so many people who are not Muslim living in the state of Pakistan, or for them, or the state should be secular. The state should have nothing to do with the religion, but eventually that was adopted. There were so many demands from the opposition parties. People's Party was finally so much flexible to accept those demands, and finally they succeeded to make that very important document. And I would say, I would refer the Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, the foreign minister of Pakistan, and who is the grandson of Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto, who is actually the writer of the constitution of this state. He very rightly said that the new generation should be told about the importance of constitution. Unfortunately,
we'll be talking about this particular, the importance of making the newer generation aware about the significance of the constitution and what were the pangs and the pains at that very time and how were they overcome. Mr. Shahzada, Zulfiqar, as you were already mentioning, there was some sort of resistance by the opposition at that time, but dialogue and statesmanship, finally it led to the passing of this particular constitution that showed the political maturity among the legislators of that time. Would you like to shed a bit of more light on this?
Yes, I think, that at that time, if you see the history, as the opposition parties played their role against the government, but at that time they agreed. They, gave their consent that it is a start. And if we don't agree on that, so maybe it would be, it will be like blocking the ways for a constitution. And the future, the people or next generation of the people of Pakistan would be blaming us. So they agreed, and they said with their condition, and they put their reservations. They recorded their reservations that we are putting our signatures. We are agreeing on that, but with reservation that with the passage of time it should be improved. And so they did that. And after that, I remember when I was a journalist, I joined 2 or 3 years before, in 90s, when there was a slogan or demand from the smaller provinces like Balochistan, autonomy, provincial autonomy. So at that time, this demand was considered as, you are, demanding against the federation, spirit of the federation, against Pakistan. But with the passage of time, I am happy that those pro-federation parties, political parties, mainstream parties, Pakistan Muslim League, they were part and parcel of that 18 amendments when it was passed. And unanimously, they was at that time, again, they was, saying that provincial autonomy demand is correct demand. think the constitution is a document agreed by every and each federating units. And like Pakistan, you know that the federating units comprising comprising the people from different ethnic groups. So if we follow the constitution, and with the passage of time, with the need of time, if we will bring improvement in that constitution, so I think everybody would be happy to follow that. Every federating unit would be happy to follow that. Yes.
Mr. Zulfiqar, your point is well taken. Please stay with us. Mr. Barrister Chattha, when we talk about Prime Minister in his address today at the convention, he said it is important to uphold the fundamental principle of federalism. Why is it so important to uphold that very principle of federalism?
This is also a very huge debate as far as constitutions are concerned. If we look into the United States Constitution, that is one of federation kind of constitution, and in third world countries mostly follow the federating kind of constitution that supports the unity of the nation, and because it is easy to control the all parts of the country by a single unit. So I think that was also a very huge challenge in Pakistan, because as Sir was saying, that different ethnicities and different cultures prevailed in Pakistan. It was very difficult to make them agree to one single piece of paper or the rules which will determine or will work to live their lives according to that constitution. So I think federalism.
This particular document, 1973 Constitution, as Prime Minister has also said, that this particular document has kept the Federation together after weathering the storms over 50 years.
Well, that's I agree with the Prime Minister that the 1973 Constitution played a very important role in keeping Pakistan intact, because all different leaders from different communities or from different ethnicities or from different religions agree to that single piece of paper. So I think that was the single most important aspect that benefited Pakistan to a large extent from that constitution. And though in principle I do not agree with the concept of federation in that respect, as we are talking, but as for the third world countries are concerned, for that matter, I think it was very important to create a single center that controls or that retains the power or to have the legal authority to make laws implemented in all parts of Pakistan. I think this is very important for us.
Your point is well taken. Let me proceed with the discussion. Dr. Abbasi, when we talk about the equal participation of all segments of the society, how does this 1973 Constitution ensures that particular factor?
Yes, actually Constitution gives more power to the oppressed people, to the weaker segments of society, particularly women and children and the people who are not having that much sort of, say in the state. The Constitution prevents their rights in the Constitution means actually prevents the fundamental rights of the people in a state altogether, all people of the state, all segments of the society. But as my colleague has said about the federation, I think this has been proved, this has been approved across the world, that the center will be more powerful, more strong when the provinces would be given some level of autonomy. The foreign affairs, the defense and the communication, the currency should be the subjects for the center, and a country like Pakistan, the smaller provinces, they should be given rights on their resources, and their demands should be addressed within the framework of the Constitution. Unless we do not implement the constitution in true letter and spirit, that couldn't be of any sort of, any sort of fruit, any sort of benefit. Unfortunately, Pakistani society, with over the time, it was depoliticized, de-democratized deliberately, because we have faced two long martial laws, 10 years one martial law, 10 years the second martial law. 20 years of the country remain under a military rule, and obviously the military rule is not a democratic rule.
But at the same time, this particular constitution shows the kind of resilience it has
Of
endured.
course,
It has weathered the storms
people
of the
who
time.
struggle in Pakistan against those dictatorial regimes, they have taken the shelter of the constitution. They were demanding the implementation of the constitution, restoration of the constitution, and I should say that this constitution is so much solid, so much sort of having strength, because the representative of all the segments, all the provinces of the country, they sort of make that constitution. They actually made this constitution, and this constitution showed the power against two military dictators. Though General Ziaul during his time, he amended massively constitution to concentrate the powers in the hands of the president. Similar sort of fashions were adopted by General Musharraf. But after the restoration of democracy
What are
in
the key
Pakistan,
factors that have made this constitution to stand the test of time?
I'm sorry, I couldn't get your question. Would you please?
What are those key factors that have made this particular document, the 1973 Constitution, stand the test of time and weather all the storms?
Because I told you earlier that it was the document which had the support, the core support of all the sort of representative of the people of Pakistan from all the provinces, not only from Punjab, not only from Balochistan, but from Punjab, from Balochistan, from Sindh, from KP, and all sort of elected political parties. Either they were right-wing political parties, there were leftist political parties, there was in power, there was in opposition. Every political leader supported that document. Actually, that document is the consensus, speak out will of the people of Pakistan. That is the most important, integral sort of strength of that constitution, that constitution remain in power even today. I was telling you that after General Musharraf, General Ziaul's martial law was ended, and the elections took place in 88. After that, in 1997, that constitution was restored, restored in the true literal spirit. That amendments which were made by General Ziaul, they were, taken out of the constitution. Similarly, under 18th Amendment, usually people do not give that much weightage to that amendment. That amendment has overhauled the constitution massively. More than 75% clauses of the constitution were either amended or some sort of more strength were given in those clauses. That constitution is sort of overhauled. That constitution is actually purified. The amendments made by General Musharraf, concentrating the powers of the people of Pakistan, the parliament, in the hands of the president. We know that President Zardari, when he came in power and when he signed 18th Amendment, he has delivered, he has given over his powers, the powers which were in the hands of president, to the parliament. And this we have seen another anomaly in Pakistan. We have seen for the first time that somebody has given over his power to the people, representative of the people of Pakistan. And if all the political parties and all the political leaders give that much, the importance of constitution, that the sacredness of the constitution, they should accept that, and they should give an above their political motives. This constitution eventually, with the passage of time, eventually it would be in the favor of the people of Pakistan.
Right. Mr. Zulfiqar, when we talk about the challenges of or the changing needs as with the passage of time, how does this constitution address that particular challenge? As you've already mentioned that after this consensus document back in 1973, we saw the 18th Amendment, another consensus document. Would you like to shed a little bit of light about the significance of amendments to address that challenge of the changing needs with the passage of time?
Look, if you see, there is a need for bringing improvements in the documents because with the passage of time, you feel some need for bringing amendments in the constitution. But unfortunately, if we see that like Ziaul, they actually, the true spirit of moved against the true spirit of 1973 Constitution and abrogated and later restored, bring many amendments which actually changed, disfigured. Rather, I would use the word disfigured the Constitution. Again, with the passage of time, again they bring amendments, and I think the last amendment by the People's Party, 18 Amendment, that we can say little bit, it actually restored the beauty of the Constitution when all three provinces, the smaller provinces, they agreed and with their consent, consent, they brought that amendment. So actually, the crisis, the political crisis, there is always solution in that document provided. But you know that this is unfortunate, the backtrack of the political parties. They don't follow the Constitution. And again, the country the society face the problems. So with I think it is very, a good augury that the present government, comprising different political parties, PDM alliance, if they agree on that, if they are celebrating this, history-making document that in 1973 by a democratic leader, Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto. So I hope that they will also follow the true spirit of that document. Yes.
Right, Mr. Zulfiqar, I think Dr. Abbasi has to make a point here. Please go ahead.
It's very ironic because the superior judiciary in a country is considered the custodian of the Constitution. But unfortunately, whenever this Constitution faced some problems, this Constitution was abrogated by military dictators.
So what is the principle?
The courts endorsed those military dictators. They stood by the abrogators of the Constitution, and the people who made this Constitution, particularly Zulfiqar Ali Bhutto, he was hanged in the hands of this supreme judiciary, which should have been, protected the Constitution.
What is the principle of distribution of power according to this Constitution that could keep a check and balance so that all the organs keep working and functioning within their ambit and limitations?
The spirit of democracy is, because our Constitution is a democratic Constitution, it is derived from the principles of Westminster democracy. But in democracy, the powers does not, in the hands of one person. That should not be in the hands of one person or the group of people or a bunch of people. It should be devolved. Parliament means the cabinet, the Prime Minister headed, the cabinet. The cabinet is actually the key body to decide. Then comes the Parliament, and then powers were devolved to the provinces and then further to the local bodies. So devolution of power is the essence of Constitution. But I was making a point that unfortunately our judiciary could not protect the Constitution, which was its primary duty.
So
whenever there was something...
That is the question of distribution of power among the various prongs of the state, right?
Of course, the Supreme Judiciary is actually considered the custodian of the Constitution. Whenever there is some attack on the Constitution, whenever there is some sort of, attack on the Constitution in the country, it is the Supreme Judiciary to protect that Constitution, to come in with all the organs of the state. But unfortunately, whenever a military dictator, because we have seen during General Musharraf, the Supreme Judiciary has extra constitutionally given 3 years to General Musharraf to amend the Constitution. That was not actually even in the hands of the Supreme Court. Similarly, we have seen at various places throughout our history, unfortunately, our judiciary remain sided with the abrogators of the Constitution who actually abrogated the Constitution. They given justification to them. But whenever the people who made this Constitution, they appeared before this court, unfortunately, it's a very sad story. They were not given the sort of justice. Either it was Bhutto, either it was Nawaz Sharif, either it was Benazir Bhutto, or even the most, I would say, the person who has faced the injustices in Pakistan, that is Asif Ali Zardari. He remained in jails, and eventually all cases against him proved, politically motivated. Nothing comes out of those cases. But unfortunately, the role of judiciary has not been appreciable.
Right. Let me take this point to Barrister Chattha. Barrister Chattha, how crucial is it that independence of judiciary, at the same time the spirit of the constitution, are also upheld?
Jawad, in my view, democracy is bedrock. If we try to weaken the democracy, the constitution will naturally be weakened. If we look at the democratic for weakened by interruption of different matters of state, and by that way, judiciary was also weakened. When you will try to with favor you and drop out the judges which support your point of view. So that is how and pick and choose was done in the judiciary, and same was done with the political parties.
Well taken. Unfortunately, we are having a little bit of distortion regarding hearing you. Thank you very much for being with us. Mr. Shahzada Zulfiqar, what about the importance of independence of judiciary at the same time? How does this constitution ensures that its spirit, keeping the independence of judiciary at the same time, is also it is ensured at the same time?
If there is a principle of in the constitution, dichotomy of power. So there is, assignments of parliament, powers of parliament, powers of establishment, powers of judiciary. None of this. Judiciary should interfere to another ambit. So I think the judiciary, my friend panelist said rightly. I agreed with him that now still there is a big question. If a chief justice says this, I am the Supreme Court. There is clearly written in the Constitution, the Supreme Court. Supreme Court means all judges along with Chief Justice, not only Chief Justice. So if somebody draws the same thinking from that article of the Constitution, so what you can do? So a lot of people were saying, legal experts were saying that are saying that the Supreme Court means Supreme Court, not Chief Justice. So I think
when the same Supreme Court says, Shahzada Saab, when the same Supreme Court gives the verdict that Prime Minister does not mean the Prime Minister only, but it means the Cabinet and the Prime Minister. Right. Similar sort of principle should be applicable in the Supreme Court as well.
Your point is well taken. Dr. Abid, Abbasi, political analyst, joining us in the studio. Really appreciate your time. And Mr. Shahzada Zulfiqar, senior journalist, joining us on the phone line. Thank you very much for being with us on Views on News tonight. We really appreciate that. And to conclude today's episode, let me quote Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif as he was addressing the convention that was commemorating the Golden Jubilee of the adoption of 1973 Constitution. He said that the Constitution of Pakistan continues to be the central to shaping our national character, identity and future trajectory. A time has come to place Parliament at the core of the national life, both in letter and spirit. With that note, we come to the end of today's show. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.